Today's lesson is all about value and value-adding techniques. So first off, what is value? Value is one of our elements of art, and value is how light or how dark an element or color is in your artwork. So dealing with shadows, highlights, light values, dark values, this is all a part of value. And for this lesson, I'm going to be teaching you 5 different value-adding techniques: blending, hatching, cross-hatching, stippling, and scribbling. Now these are all things that are going to help you to make your artwork more realistic and to more accurately show lights and darks. So let's start with the tools that you're going to need. All right, with value adding, generally we're going to be using pencil. Now this should look familiar, like a number scale, perhaps something you've seen before. Well, in pencils, we have a pencil scale, and at the middle is HB, right? So HB is kind of like our neutral starting point, and then it moves to one direction, B, 2B, 4B, 6B, and the other way, 2H, 4H, 6H. Now this is getting harder or softer leads. The B's are softer leads, which are good for darks and blending, and the H's are harder leads, good for details and fine lines. All right, so the first one we are going to do is blending. So I'm using an HB pencil. You can see here, that's fine. But honestly, the softer the lead, the easier this is going to be. So I've got my pencil good and sharpened, but you can see it gives me a really hard line. So what I want to do is I want to scribble on the page and kind of flatten one edge of my pencil. So that's what I'm doing there. Now you can see I'm going over in a back and forth kind of quick manner, and I'm really not pushing hard. And as I go across, I lift my pencil so that it's gradually getting lighter and lighter and lighter. All right, you can go in small movements back and forth or in small circular movements to get rid of scratches and lines. Because the big thing with blending is you don't want a lot of lines showing up. If you do ever accidentally kind of make a scratchy line that's too bold, you can go over in small circular motions or in another direction with your pencil. All right, so going in one direction and then coming in another direction to kind of mask those lines. If you have a dark value and a light value next to it and you want to bring them together, just slowly start bringing small movements up towards the other value and then increase your pencil pressure and kind of go back over. As long as you're drawing lightly, you can go over as many times as you want and the value will build. Blending really is not very hard. You just have to practice in small parts. It is much harder once you get into bigger areas to keep things consistent and smooth, but the more you practice in small areas, the easier that's going to be. Now I'm going to show you blending on an actual object. So I'm going to speed this up here, not really that fast at drawing, and I'm drawing a sphere. So I want to try and show a highlight on this ball shape. A sphere is a ball, and some shadows on one side. So I want you to notice some things that I'm doing while I'm drawing. So first off, I am turning the page a lot, especially when you're doing something that direction matters. I don't want to draw with straight lines going back and forth or up and down on a sphere because a sphere is round. Your pencil direction is going to have a big impact on the way that the blending looks. So if you are drawing something, say a face, and you do all horizontal lines back and forth, you're going to look very flat. And that's because you used a lot of back and forth lines. You also see at some point I'm going to scratch off on the top of the paper. The reason that I'm doing that is to give myself a nice flat edge on my pencil again because I was getting some kind of sharp lines. All right, so right there, yeah, just did that to soften my pencil edge again, okay? So you can see, you can kind of go in and continue building. As long as you're using a light pressure, you can go over and change the values without going too dark on accident. So here's a real quick example. Nothing perfect, but a start. So that's blending. And next we have hatching. So with hatching, it's going to be really important to give yourself a pretty sharp pencil. So I'm going to go ahead and sharpen my pencil because line is going to be incredibly important with hatching. Hatching is using lines next to each other, all right, to create value. they cannot overlap or intersect to be actual hatching, okay? That's going to get into cross-hatching. So the way that you can change value, you can kind of see, it's a little hard to see in the video, I'm sorry about that, but how close you make the lines together or far apart will change the value. So if you make them very close together and you use thick lines, it's going to make darker values. If you make them farther apart or use thinner lines, that'll make lighter values. You can see now you can curve the lines. You can have lines that come right up against each other, but if the lines intersect, you're no longer doing hatching, you're doing cross-hatching. So here you can see I'm drawing a mouth. None of these lines are intersecting, right? They're all right next to each other. I'm making shorter, darker lines for shadows and drawing a real quick little mouth. There it is, okay? Real easy. Hatching can look a little bit more graphic, smiley face, or can look a little bit more of kind of like a haphazard, quick, kind of sketchy style. So that's hatching for you. All right, and next we have cross-hatching, which is obviously going to be quite a bit like hatching, but with this one you have a lot more freedom because you can add more lines that overlap one another. So again, with hatching and cross-hatching, we're going to be working on line quality, right? So here hatching, you can see they can overlap, and they can overlap in any direction. Now line quality, what I mean here is you can start by pushing your pencil hard, lighter, harder, lighter. This is going to give you a lot of different kind of qualities and looks to your lines. Now you can see here, I'm drawing an apple with the cross-hatching technique. Real quick little sketch. And there it is, cross-hatching. You can see it's a lot easier, and you can show darker values a lot more easily with cross-hatching. So that's it for cross-hatching, and now we're going on to stippling. Stippling, you can absolutely use a pencil to do stippling. Pencils are fine, but it will take you a long time. So I am going to allow you to use other tools if and when you do stippling. Okay, because pencil can take forever. It can also look amazing, but it takes a lot of time. You can see, you can barely even see what I did there using a pencil. So I'm going to use a big Sharpie for this. And with stippling, it's making little dots. And the closer and bigger the dots are together, the darker the value will appear. And then as you make them farther apart, you can see you can have lighter values, or a smaller dot. Oh, there's my dog. Get out of here, Hazel. She smelled the Sharpie. So the closer you make them together, the darker the value, and the farther apart, the lighter the value. So stippling can be a lot of fun. It's really graphic, and depending on how you do it and how far away you are from the image, it can still look really realistic, and then you get up close and realize the entire image is made of dots. If you are familiar with Georges Seurat, he used pointillism, which is a type of painting that's like stippling. It's very, very cool in his artwork. When you see it up close, it just looks like color, but when you get up or back away, you see the image. So here I'm drawing a cube. So on one side, I'm going to make it very dark by making them very close together. Another side, medium value, a little bit farther apart, and then the top is going to be our lightest value. The lightest values in stippling is definitely the hardest to do because it can look a little incomplete. But once the image is done, it normally looks the way it ought to. All right, so a little cube there, done with stippling. All right, so that is it for stippling. And we are going to move on to our last value adding technique, which is scribbling. Now, scribbling can be really, really fun. It's just a quick thing you can do, but can also look really, really sharp. So the first thing is make sure your pencil is sharpened, but it could be any point. And I'm not doing regular swirly, whirly scribbling. Now you'll see I'm writing my name here in script. If you know how to write in script, then you're going to have a really good hand at the type of scribbles that you should make. Basically what I do is kind of write letters over top of one another. It gives you more of like a movement. There's more of a back and forth to the lines that you can create. And again here, the more you pile up the scribbles on top of each other, the darker the value will be. And the more you lighten your hand and the farther apart the scribbles are, the lighter the value will be. Again, consider line quality. How hard are you pushing? How thick are your lines? How thin are your lines? So for this example, I'm going to make a cone with a cast shadow. So I'm going to start on the darker side, and I am going to start scribbling that shadow in and lightening it as it goes to the lighter side. The shadow is not going to be quite as dark as the shadow on the actual object. And there you are, a cone done with scribbling. All right, so we're done with scribbling, and that is it for our value-adding techniques. I apologize for some of the technical glitches happening in this video, but I think that what we have here is enough to get you started. When you come into class, we are going to be working on these for the next projects. So don't be intimidated if you don't understand how to do them, but I do want you to give them a try in our practices, and we will take a closer look in class over the next couple of weeks. All right, thanks for watching, guys.